Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. The answer to your question is learn the goddamn process, trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Rational Investors Daily Brief. Brian here. It's the 10th of November, 9 o'clock on the West Coast, Friday, TGIF I suppose. I hope you guys enjoyed Julian's offering yesterday. I think he did it at a slightly different time, but yeah, he's over there in Thailand, so might as well try and work with everybody's schedule around the world. Yeah, I do see a few people are watching, probably not too many people today, but anyway, I'll try and give you my 2 cents. I don't know what the current bid is. YouTube had one job. It looks like I'm having buffering issues. All right. But if anything, honestly, we're kind of debating what the future of these live videos are right now at TRI, because we have so many buffering issues, and now we're going to have different times a day and stuff. I honestly don't know what the fate of this video is. So don't be surprised if TRI actually goes through some retooling over the next few months. Anyway, I'll try and give you some value today. I'm not quite sure what value I can offer. Going ons in the world. We can just, economics, actually a pretty quiet day, North America wise. If we scroll down here to Friday, you can see we had some Fed speakers. Obviously, when they speak, they can inject a lot of volatility in the market, but it's not really news driven. We had Lagarde speaking there, probably this, well, not probably, there earlier this morning. And from what I understand, sort of when I listen to all the sort of talking heads around social media and news outlets and stuff, is a lot of double talk coming out of Europe. The economics themselves are really, really poor. So I think I was showing you the other day, there was a Reuters article that said that the Europeans have absolutely no justification for raising interest rates anymore. At the same time, too, they're trying to talk up that things are so great and will be raising rates if inflation is still a problem and all that. Thought it was interesting. Woke up this morning to the headline, China consumer prices fall again. So ironically enough, in some parts of the world, we're actually going through deflation. And you might find that Asia actually has to go through a period of deflation. Things just got bid up. I mean, you saw there's like whole ghost cities built that just nobody's living in them. And, typical Chinese consumer, they, invest in properties that haven't even been built yet. And talk about, and it's gone, holy moly, and it never was. Oh yeah, you invested your life savings in something it never even was. So that's the world we're living in. Cats and dogs are living together right now. Thought it was interesting too. Gentlemen I have been listening to, I suggested to Trading Buddy here this morning that the Americans, and really you could argue this entire Western civilization, we're in a lot of hot water here. I mean, it's absolutely stunning how bad this is. But this gentleman here, I thought he did a pretty good job sort of talking. I mean, this is the projected debt situation that we're in. I mean, can that end well? I don't see how it can. It's funny how, guys like, that Klaus guy, the Great Reset, and various different people, Ray Dalio, and the changing world order and all that. This is just a really bad situation that just seems to be getting worse. And what's fascinating is he even in this gentleman even made reference to one of my heroes in the market, good old Stanley Druckenmiller, and he basically says that Janet Yellen, in essence, shouldn't even have a job right now. She has managed this U.S. Treasury balance sheet so badly that really it's criminal even having her at the post. It was just such a bad job she did. And I would imagine, as sort of a rah-rah American, Stanley's probably very, very disappointed in the way that this past few years have gone with these banksters. Keep in mind, Yellen was basically a Fed bureaucrat, spent her whole life, in sort of like that Fed kind of like cradle and not really living in the real world. Now she's over in the real world trying to balance the U.S., really U.S. government's future and doing just an absolutely horrific job at it. I thought that was fascinating. But, the problem here is that how does that end? It can't end well. Or it's sort of the great reset and everybody just add one zero. Maybe you're going to have to add a couple zeros onto the end of all of your price tags. Keep in mind that, where is it? Here is, right here is the turn of the century. Holy moly, in 20 years? How did they go and do this? What a disaster. And the sad part about it is it's politicians on both sides of the aisle, so you can't just blame the left or blame the right. They're both culpable. Everybody's just stealing and not paying any taxes and, encouraging the rich get big tax breaks and stuff. And so we've got this disaster, and I don't see how that can end well. I suppose, all the Bitcoin fans out there, we're seeing Bitcoin move up smartly. The other day, some people on sort of social media and stuff had made reference to the fact that this recent U.S. government auction actually ignited the fire under Bitcoin's recent move higher. But what I did find interesting, again, referring to this gentleman, I really like listening to him. He's very dry, but if you like economics, he's a good guy to listen to. He was suggesting that basically according to Yellen, she was just going to absolutely flood the market with new debt. And like I said, just in the past, I think it's like 6-8 months, they just floated another $1 trillion of debt just out of nowhere. And of course, the Bitcoin market is like, you're going to dilute the shit out of your currency again? All right, well, we're going to just keep moving higher. But anyway, he had made reference that, and if you are into sort of, macroeconomic models and stuff, he's actually making the argument that the U.S. government actually is not in control of the situation right now whatsoever. That actually the U.S., talk about deep state and all that kind of fun stuff. The U.S. government is actually being run by these guys, the Treasury Borrowing Advisory Committee, TBAC. And, like a month or so ago, Yellen was coming out and saying, I'm going to just float a ton of debt. And, we got all this debt that's coming due. Like I said, Stanley Druckenmiller just said she completely fucked the whole thing up. But, because she fucked the situation up so badly that now there's just tons and tons and tons of bonds that are coming due. And they have to be refinanced. These people just put out this report that said, slow down, Granny. You don't know what the fuck you're doing, and you better listen to us and do what we're telling you to do, or you're literally gonna the country's going to head off the cliff here at 100 miles an hour. So what was fascinating was, and actually Chris and I were talking about this morning, and he had pointed it out that they put this report together very hastily, and she got the message loud and clear, and all of a sudden now she's sort of changed her tone, and she's not going to be floating as much debt as she had previously suggested. So, maybe do yourself a favor if you're into macroeconomics and all that kind of fun stuff. Just Google Treasury Board Advisory Committee. Maybe get this document yourself, this presentation, if you like to try and understand what's really going on. But one thing that did really jump out at me about this gentleman's commentary is how these are the people who are actually running the US Treasury now. You would think that in this democracy, yeah, right, whatever, the people actually vote, and the people, no, it's this, deep state advisory board that actually is running the US Treasury right now. I thought that was fascinating. And I suppose while we work our way through this, and frankly speaking, I don't know what the end game is, but how on earth does that resolve itself? This isn't, and the worst part about this is that they're borrowing insane amounts of money. And of course, these socialists, Biden, hey, let's give everybody free money, free college education, whatever, free, tons of free. Where are you getting this money? And that, like I said, the worst part about this is that they're doing this in theoretically good economic times. And the whole point of Keynesian economics 101 was that in bad economic times, that's when the government steps up and spends money and injects money into the economy to support the economy and balance out, so that when consumers and corporations are sort of reeling and they can't handle the current situation, maybe a rise in interest rates that makes homes unaffordable. Oh, is that potentially a problem looming out there? Anyway, but like we've gotten to the point now where Keynesian economics is just completely thrown out the window, and we're going parabolic here. So, interesting thing about this, and I've always made this argument, is you might have $1 million Bitcoin, but at the same time too, it's going to cost you $500 for a loaf of bread at the grocery store. So is $1 million Bitcoin really all that great? I don't know. Only time will tell. So, there's your backdrop. And anyway, if you want a fun sort of project for the weekend, listen to this guy. I like this guy. I think he's got a pretty sharp head on his shoulders. Anyway. So, in the backdrop of the US completely fucking up the whole fiat currency system, and who knows what the end game of this is, I think this does play out exactly like our celestial guru Cole has been advising us, that there is Cole over there on YouTube. 2027, 2028, 2029, probably 2030. Oh boy, because usually they, the way the crooked politics work, Joe Biden, he will mortgage his kids' future, or, grandkids, I suppose, future, just to make damn sure that everything goes smoothly through the election. And 2024 is an election year. So I would be really surprised to hear that the market broke, and they're gonna somehow figure out a way to stimulate that things sort of keep going. But once we get into that, keep in mind 1987 was kind of a similar situation where they called it a crash, but really it wasn't a crash. I mean, you could make the argument, I'm short crude right now on my little sim account. But you could make the argument that, and I don't know, maybe this is the purpose of today's video for the public. But if you looked at the Dow in 1929, I don't know whether I can do this here or not relatively quickly. I'll see if I can try and sneak this in here. So if we go back to 1929, yeah, I mean, maybe this isn't the best example. Well, I suppose the initial break here was about a 50% retracement of that move. One thing I didn't, what I was thinking here was 1987, which is, I think, very similar to what we're going through right now. This is what I think's going to happen here is that we put in this base in the late 70s, early 80s, huge run up. And, if you think election years, right, 84 was an election year. And then, there was so much stimulus and stuff pumped into the economy to make sure that, politicians keep their job, that it keeps pushing. And then you have a situation where you get an absolute horrific quote unquote crash. But really, all the move is just basically a 50% retracement of the most recent move, maybe measure it off of there or something like that. So, considering I think probably the sickness lows are bottom in the market right now. I mean, I don't know where the heck this thing tops, but it almost looks like this is kind of like what this consolidation was. Actually, yeah, this makes sense. So 84 election year kind of idea, midpoint consolidation, and then burst higher. And then, of course, this is the blow off top here. Is this sort of like that midpoint consolidation? And then we probably like replicate this to the upside, maybe like a 200% range extension or something along those lines. And then when we do get up into there into 87 or to 27, I should say, kaboom, down we go, or maybe just back to 50% of the entire range. That's kind of what I'm thinking what's going to happen here. But oh goodness, it's just an absolute mess. And the worst part about this is that day by day by day, the situation is just getting worse and nothing is changing. None of these Western democratically elected governments, none of them are doing anything to address the problem right now. So it's only going to get worse before it gets better. Woohoo, party! All right. Coming back to the short term, as I had said there earlier, I was a little surprised to see that things like China, it just continues to unwind. And this is a function, of course, of rising interest rates. The whole Chinese economy, the whole Fugazi, the whole bubble in the real estate, and you could argue in China as well, is just based purely on the cost of money just never going up again. So as long as the cost of money just kept falling and falling and falling, you could refinance at lower rates and, borrow more, borrow more, borrow more. Actually, it's interesting when locally here in Canada, they had tons and tons of these, like literally, do you own your own home? Well, great. You could come and borrow money against it, right? Alpine credits. And well, I mean, you wouldn't know the name, but I mean, there's just tons of them. And now when I'm driving Liam around, never hear those commercials again. So that whole endlessly borrowing against the equity in your home, that has ended. And I think that, interestingly enough, China, one of the sort of ways that this ultimately plays out is basically the bubble has to pop. And China, ironically enough, China might actually even go back to the way the economy was prior to this whole turn of the century build out nonsense. I don't know how deep the trough is. Be interesting. We haven't looked at it in a bit, but I'm just shooting the shit with all of you. So for fun, why don't we go take a look at what our China, well, actually not China. I think we had like a China trade matrix here, and Canada happened to be part of that conversation. There it is, China. Let's see how they're doing. On that price deflation, I would imagine these things are under pressure. I don't see a hell of a lot of bottoms here yet. Probably these iShares are probably a good proxy for the trade. So you can see, interesting enough, didn't really set up very well, but on the weekly basis, there was just a quick little fail there. So already moving stop to trailing levels. I suppose anybody who did take that trade is locking in profits at this point. But I wouldn't be surprised to see it work its way all the way down here. I mean, this is all open air here if they start puking out. And actually, potential outside downside engulfing. Actually, not potential because today's Friday. So the Chinese market is done for the week. I suppose that is a reversal bar there. We're also watching things like Alibaba. And I mean, if anything, great anecdote of the whole sort of China scam is how Mr. Ma was liberated of his company. So do we really have any signs of any major bottom here? You might A, B, C, D this one out. And I see one high, two highs, three highs. If the 25 entry level there, that would make sense. Looking for further downside there. So, these big companies, there's a few of them out of China, but this one in particular, whoops, what did I just do there? Killed something. They're probably a good way to sort of follow how this Chinese story plays out. And man, there was a couple. There was one video that I was watching the other day. Can't remember the exact name of it. But they were saying that they just had a Chinese sort of expo fair. I think it was called the Canton Expo or something like that. And it's all about the export market there in China. And they just said it's absolute crickets. There's just nobody showing up, no purchase orders, no Westerners are showing up wanting to buy anything. And they're all freaking out there locally. Anyway, so we'll see what the hell happens out of China. All right. As I had sort of pointed out at the very beginning of the broadcast, we don't really have a hell of a lot of econs here coming out of North America today. So interestingly enough, Chris and I were doing that opening range trade. And we got stopped out again today for a full loss. So basically I had to put the account away. I'm only allowed to have one of those losses a day. And if the opening range trade fails, then that means I just got to pack up and come back again the next day. So haven't taken any live trades since that opening range trade failed. But it is an interesting side anecdote that in these very low news environments where all you have are Fed speakers and stuff, price action is very choppy. Econs that we did have come out, University of Michigan consumer sentiment ticked down quite a bit. So it was interesting. I wondered if the market itself, and actually I guess there's the final number there. Not quite sure how that gets published, but noticed, and it'll be interesting to see how the market finishes the day because the market was trying to move itself higher here over the past week or so. Do you call that a dead cat bounce? I kind of think so. When I was talking to you guys recently, maybe on Wednesday or Thursday's broadcast, where is it? Showing you, I guess it wasn't Thursday, Wednesday maybe. Showing you this chart that what I kind of thought was happening here was it looked like it was basically a head and shoulders that was forming here. And if that's the case, then this should be significant resistance. And I think indeed that's exactly what this turned out to be. It's pretty significant resistance. Didn't really break down on the charts on the futures. So they actually left a bit of a gap. Unfortunately, can't see that with that. Let's get that out of there. On the daily charts, they actually left a bit of a gap here. And you can see that today's price action has done nothing more than go in and fill that gap. Is that the extent of this rally? I don't know. But generally speaking, a bit of a green day over here in North America, even in the face of that Chinese number and in the face of that nasty University of Michigan consumer sentiment number. Interesting too, and this kind of surprised me today. Like this gold market is just getting bitch slapped. That really surprised me. And, it kind of leaves me scratching my head with the Bitcoin market moving up as it is, and crypto seems to be going into orgy mode. I pulled up this chart getting ready for you guys here today. Generally speaking, the gold market, that's this candle, and then the Bitcoin market is the line market. You can see, generally speaking, fairly correlated. And then, we had a bit of a bottom come in here. I suppose there was a little disconnect here, but a little bit of a rally. And then, these things generally topped out and started to work their way back down, fairly correlated. And then, the big rally up top here, just of late, again, fairly correlated, but something dramatically has disconnected here. And I'm really worried because, keep in mind, Bitcoin is highly, highly manipulatable. It's an unregulated market. I've seen the Bitcoin price and I've seen altcoins just horrifically manipulated over the past. And of course, there is no sort of benchmark. Bitcoin has to trade at this price, has to trade at that price. I think the reason why this is moving up, of course, is, BlackRock ETFs. And I think Ethereum came out with an ETF announcement and stuff and all that. Or, BlackRock came out with an ETH, ETF. Try saying that 10 times fast. So something is clearly disconnected here. And keep in mind, the gold market's a pretty big market. And when the gold market goes in and puts in what I would consider a very solid top up here, that's an M top if there ever was one. And you might even argue a head and shoulders. And it's breaking in earnest. And I mean, you see the gaps to the downside here. Is the writing not on the walls? I'd also say too that all of our internal indicators and proprietary sort of trend measuring tools that we have on the TRI site right now are very, very cautionary about crypto. We're ridiculously overbought in this market. I won't show you the crypto indexes, that's behind the paywall, but this histogram, I've been talking to you about this a while. The whole bloody crypto market is lifting in unison. Now, we did have a little bit of a reprieve yesterday, but I even noticed, like today, for example, this name. Now, theoretically, this name would declare Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So I'm not quite sure what the hell's going on here. Why is this thing rallying? And then I noticed that FTT, which is supposed to be, didn't this guy just get thrown in jail? Why is this thing lifting? I mean, something stinks about all of this. And they always say, for whatever it's worth, they always say that the shit always rises last. So if you're ever in a stock market bull market, and really, I think a great, perfect example was through that 2021 crazy bull market there. All the names went absolutely parabolic right into the end of the move. So I'm left very skeptical. Another name that's lifting here, which theoretically these guys should be defunct. I'm actually surprised that they're even here. But I even put a tweet out. What are you lunatics back? Is that what's going on here? I mean, Luna of all things, why is it lifting here? This doesn't make any sense. So, yet another anecdote that, they always say the shit always rises last. So just be careful here, people. And unfortunately, I mean, there's not really much more I can say. The way that I would describe this, and, this link is probably a really good example, is there's no way I can come out publicly and with good conscience. I mean, if I was some sort of shill bot and we had some sort of, agenda to try and sucker you all into buying our paper. And of course, it's just going to be a big rug pull and we're going to take off to the fucking Caribbean with all your money and whatever, blah, 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 as the story goes. Maybe create a hedge fund called Alameda. I don't know. Anyway, I would be like, yeah, go and buy this. You're gonna get rich, right? Technical analysis doesn't matter. Fuck you, right? Blah blah blah. But I can't, in good consciousness, come out and tell you that that's a buy. And in fact, when I went on this TradingView chat room yesterday, what I just simply told them, because this is a public service, is be careful here. If anything, I have to be a net seller here, not a net buyer. I cannot buy that. I just can't. It's difficult for me right now. And this is we're getting back into this type of market state where I have to sit here and I have to say, yeah, maybe the market's going to go up and there's not really much I can do, and I'm just going to keep barking cautionary words at you. But I would be very, very leery about buying any of this kind of stuff in here right now. There are a couple names, I will say, that look interesting. We've got some crypto OGs that are just such badass traders and investors and stuff. If you had tuned into the Wednesday show, and actually he's over there on YouTube right now, Mr. Stoned Ape gave us this. I mean, if you can get in on the W's, great, awesome, but don't chase. And then there was another one. Eddie had mentioned this recently. Beautiful W's. I can't really chase that. It's interesting how this one actually did pull back. Maybe if you just worked a stink bid off the W you got in there. If you can try and sneak your way in off of these W's, okay, fine. But even something like this, like the smart, sharp traders, they're drawing their reload zones right now. And if they're gonna buy, they're probably going to where are we here? Probably gonna have bids working down to the bottom ends of ranges, that kind of stuff. But you can't chase this kind of market up top here. You're just asking for trouble. And actually, I wanted to give you a treat. This was one of our site OGs. He even posted this in the lounge this morning, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about this in the after party here today. That's maybe we're taking a shot off of, but you have to remember, like I said, the shit always rises last. So the question is, what's the quality of this? And if you do come in here and buy, if you're going to trade, at least you get a relatively small risk window to work with. And you're not chasing, and actually you're coming in kind of bottom end of the range. So if anything, there's my public service announcement. Thank you, Zug, you're so awesome wherever you are. There's an idea for you to chew on. Maybe do some of your due diligence and see if it fits your plan. But on balance, please don't chase these markets that have gone zooming up here already. I think you're kind of asking for trouble. We'll finish off the broadcast with just a quick review of the corn. I did post this chart in our most recent weekly update that if we did blast through 38.2s, could we be maybe making a bullish flagpole or a bull ABCD? And if so, where would that take us? So my next sort of technical objective is into this wick up top here. We'll talk about this on the Broiler Chicken Show on Sunday. Into the 50% level of the entire range and into this original Empire top fractal fail level. That's where a lot of institutional players that did put on shorts, they'll probably come back and defend those trades up there. You can also see off of this entire range here, Foggenbaum 2.618. So believe it or not, I could actually see Bitcoin run up into this 41,000 area. I don't know whether it goes up straight line like this, or maybe it even pulls back to moving average support. But, path of least resistance at the moment appears to still be up. If you did trade this, and there was this bullish bot that I've been walking you through for the past week or so. Actually, that's maybe the past couple weeks now. Entry was 34,638. I've been posting this update in these videos and on the site and stuff recently. So I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. What I did find interesting with the bot is move stop to trailing level was hit. So that means at this point you can start looking backwards, doing your 3 high low count. And with this W that just came in overnight, now I've got this pivot low. I've got this pivot low, I've got this pivot low. So I actually can officially have permission to move my stop up a bit. Woo! So you can see, worst case scenario, if this thing face rips down and we lose this trend line and stuff, I'll actually walk away with a small profit on this bot setup for whatever it's worth. Target still seems to be at present 38.7. This is off a stamp. And interestingly enough, if we do go absolutely parabolic, Alt ABCD targets 127.2 all the way up to 1.618, which is in that 40,000 to 42,000, which is basically into that weekly objective up top there. Yeah, market might do that. I think what I did here, as you can see, is this was a nice little demo trade for you guys. Strapped on 1/10 of a coin here. I think it was about $3,000 or $4,000 trade. And I've got an order to sell half of the position at the bot level. And if the market just goes absolutely ape shit to the upside, well, then I'll spoon feed some more up top here. Hopefully it'll be a really good sort of demo walkthrough of how this bot trade setup works. Other than that, just slow and steady wins the race. Can't really get too excited about this market because frankly speaking, I think it's got trouble written all over it. And I'm left here sitting here scratching my head going either the gold market is wrong or the Bitcoin market is wrong. And considering that over time, these two generally like to move in a correlatory fashion, this disconnect cannot last. So either gold turns around on a dime and starts ripping higher, doubtful, or maybe Bitcoin's got to calm down here and do some consolidating. It is interesting how the Bitcoin market got its sort of huge injection of buying interest on that recent bond auction, but that commentary, and I would strongly suggest that all of you watch this guy's video. I think it's a really good video. I was also pretty impressed with this ICT guy. I'm encouraging Chris to consider adding this guy's setup. It's another setup to consider. So Chris and I just chit-chatting away through the morning to it. And I would even suggest all of you, if you're hunting setups, that guy's setup looks like it's working pretty well lately. So there's your free market commentary here for a Friday. Sure hope you got some value out of that. I mean, this is a damn screwy market, and it's going to be a screwy market for quite a while. I have no idea the end game on this. Full disclosure, I've got Bitcoins for Liam, and I'll never touch those. The only time I will touch those is if Bitcoin does go to a price where I can buy a house for Liam with those Bitcoins. But, if you are invested in this space, you don't fuck around with those. But, trading wise, I don't mind the idea of this bot setup. And of course, if this thing M's out, then we know that the bull's done. But investing in Bitcoin right here, right now, there's no way in hell I could do that. And I can't even endorse the public to do that. So there's your message for the day. All right. PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins the race. We'll pop on over, I guess, and have a chit chat with the community in the after party today. Our special guest host actually bailed, but I do see actually our level 4 instructors on the call here today. So maybe he'll chit chat a little bit with us with what he sees going on in the options and option spreads markets. In fact, actually, Zach, I don't know whether you have a microphone or not, but didn't you strap on that Mara trade as a good sort of proxy in the crypto space? Because I think it's done pretty well recently.
Hey, Brian.
There he is. Hey, buddy.
Hey, yeah. Hey. Yeah, I did. I don't have it in front of me. I'm driving, but
well, that's no excuse. Where's fucking TBG?
Yeah.
He's always driving and talking to us.
Yeah, well, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm just listening.
Yeah, you're awesome. You're awesome. But the point was, Zach basically is our level 4 instructor, and he's just he's turned himself into an option spread guru. And it's beautiful watching them in action, and of course, teaching the students. Um, and one of the trades that we had in our TRI SOF club meeting recently was a bull call spread on Mara. And I've noticed that Mara, of course, along with the whole rest of the crypto space, is starting to lift back up here. Interesting how actually today it's not moving that much. That's a bit of a surprise. In fact, actually, crypto is kind of maybe that's a bit of a tell. But this is an example of a bull call spread that he had going. If anything, actually, okay, yeah, we got to finish the free broadcast. I can get into another conversation. Come on over to the after party. Maybe we'll talk a little option spreads. Who knows? Slow and steady
Okay.
wins the race. PMA for the win. We'll have a show on Sunday to speak to the level 1 people. And other than that, have yourselves a great rest of your Friday. Hopefully a fun Friday evening, Saturday, and slow and steady wins the race. PMA for the win. I suppose if this bot setup does hit its objective, I'll be more than happy to bark out. Well, there you go. Trade your setups. And if this thing does roll over and the M actually fires here, from what I understand, there's a bunch of divergences. And of course, our indicator is in horrific divergence right now. It does not like crypto at all right now. So put it all together. Don't be in love with this market. Like I said, with this gold market, something stinks about all this, but market can remain illogical far longer than any of us can remain solvent, right? All right. Have yourselves a great day. Slow and steady wins the race. PMA for the win. Remember what your number one job is. Don't take no wooden nickels. And let's try and remember some of this stuff, including myself. PMA for the win. All right. Have yourselves a great day. Bye for now.